Right, now we're going to look at identities. So, you don't have to memorize them because they're going to be listed here, but look at them so you know what to use. So, secant. Secant is 1 over cosine. We want to find a cosine. So, secant theta, and I'm just rewriting it. And then this one says secant theta is 1 over cosine. So let's just substitute. So negative root 30 over 3 equals 1 over cosine. So really what we can do, instead of cross multiplying and solving and all that fun stuff, we can just take the reciprocal. So we can say, all right, 3 over negative root 30. And then we'll fix the root 30. So 3 root 30 over negative 30. And then we'll reduce 3 and 30. So root 30 over 10. And the negative, doesn't really matter where it goes. I usually just put it on top. So negative root 30 over 10. So tangent and cosine, find sine. So I will use this right here. Tangent equals sine over cosine. We want to find sine, so how about we just multiply both sides by cosine. And then I know those two and I can just multiply them. So root 2 over 4 times negative 2 root 2 over 3. So on top the roots will cancel out, so that's negative 2 times 2 over 12, so negative 4 over 12, which reduces down to just negative 1/3. Alright, I'll do an even new color, cosecant and cotangent. Find secant. Right, I'm sure there's a couple ways to do that. Well, cosecant is 1 over sine. So sine is 3 over 7. Cotangent is 1 over tangent. So tangent is negative 3 over 2 root 10. Secant is 1 over cosine. So let me just find cosine. So tangent sine over cosine. So multiply by cosine to get rid of it here, and then divide by tangent. So cosine is sine over tangent. So sine is 3 over 7. Tangent is negative 3 over 2 root 10. So you can do this thing called big C over little c. So that becomes what? 6 root 10 over negative 21. And then I can reduce that by 3. So 2 root 10 over negative 7. But that's not our answer because we need 1 over that, so the reciprocal of that. So negative 7 root, negative 7 over 2 root 10, but we don't like radicals in the bottom. So negative 7 root 10 over 20. Alright. I have some Pythagorean identities. Oops. Let's see, find cosine if tangent is this. Oh, find cosine and tangent if sine and cotangent. All right. So cosine, I would use this. So I would solve for cosine. So cosine squared equals 1 minus sine squared, and then square root. And then I'm just going to replace sine squared with negative 1/3, and we'll square it. So 1 minus, and then 1/3 squared is 1/9. 1 minus 1/9 is 8/9. So that's root 8 over root 9. So that's root 8 over 3. And then we won't even talk about simplifying radicals, but that's cosine. And now we want to find tangent. So tangent squared plus 1 equals secant squared. So if I solve for tangent, that's secant squared minus 1, and then square root. So secant is 1 over cosine, which we just found. So it's really 3 over root 8 squared. So it becomes 9 over 8. To give, what, 1/8? 1 squared 1 over squared 8. So 1 over root 8, which is root 8 over 8. And I won't even worry about reducing that. Except it wanted cotangent was less than 0. So negative. Alright. Tangent and sine if secant is that. Okay. So let's see, tangent squared equals secant. Well, I know what that is. That's 6 over 5. So, alright, let's square it. And then I can subtract 1, take the square root. So square root, and then subtract 1. So let's see. That'll give me the square root. Let's see, instead of 1, I'll say 25 over 25. So 11 over 25. So square root that, square root 11 over 5 for tangent. And then to find sine, well, secant is 1 over cosine. So cosine is 5 over 6. So cosine squared plus sine squared equals 1. Well, cosine is 5 over 6, so let's square that. So then sine is the square root of 1 minus that, 25 over 36. So if I change that to be 36 over 36, I'll get 11 over 36, which is root 11 over 6. Alright, here's some co-function and even and odd identities. So, alright. So sine of negative theta equals negative 0.97. So that means sine equals 0.97. I don't know if we need that, but sorry, that means that negative sign, that equals negative sign. And then we want to find cosine. So that's this right here. So I just need sine. So divide that by -1. Or I can just do this, okay. So negative sine would be negative cosine pi over 2. Because sine equals this, so negative cosine equals negative 0.97. Oop, drop my negative. So both sides are negative, so I can get rid of it, so it's just positive 0.97. All right. So tangent of negative alpha equals negative tangent. And we want to find this. That's the cotangent, so that's this right here. But notice, this has angle minus pi over 2, this is pi over 2 minus angle. So I have a factor of -1 in here. So tangent theta is 2.36. So that's 2.36. But I have to factor out a negative here to get it to look in that form right here. Because this is what I want it to be. I'm pulling a negative out of the wrong thing. Pull a negative out of this. And then negative means I can pull it out on the outside, so negative 2.36. Don't know why I scrolled down, because I need all of these. Alright, so secant of beta minus pi over 2. So again, that's one that is backwards. So if I pull out a negative, that way it's switched. So pulling out the negative will make that change. So now I have secant equals positive 3.62. Now I want cosecant. So I need that, but then I also need this. So cosecant of negative beta is going to be negative cosecant of beta. Well, cosecant is secant, which is right here. And I didn't even have to do anything else because I already turned it into the positive we need. So there we go. And I think that's it.